Okay, guys, can you hear me okay at the back? Hey, good. Right, so what we're going to cover today then, just make sure you're in the right place. We're going to do a battle between Salesforce and Dynamics 365. So this might possibly be the most violent session of the whole day. So if you're not into that thing, maybe, you know. But no, we're going to make this quite fun, quite interactive. Try not to take it too seriously, guys. I just want to ask as well, do we have any Salesforce people in the audience? We've got one at the back, but I'm guessing everyone's more Microsoft focused. This is a Microsoft conference, so we'll try not to be too biased if we can. I'll get into introductions in a sec, but I guess this session is aimed at those of you, maybe with a commercial mindset. You need to assess between Dynamics and Salesforce. You might be looking at what we're doing in the omni-channel space. You might be seen as the expert in what you do, and people might come to you that says, look, what are Salesforce up to? So a few value adds for you to hopefully help. Quick introductions then. So my name's Rahul Barath. I've been working in Dynamics since 2006. I'm currently working in pre-sales for Hitachi Solutions Europe. And if you want to add me on LinkedIn, you'll probably have to come to the front and do a scan, and I'll hand over to Jason.
Hello. Hi, my name's Jason Almeida, Hitachi Solutions. Also, massive thanks to Hitachi, the headline sponsor for today, who's made this event possible, as well as all of the other sponsors as well. Both Rahul and I work in pre-sales, both of us solution architects as well. Yeah, we're here today to talk to you about, Dynamics 365 versus Omnichannel. I'm going to hand over to Rahul to do a quick set the scene, and then we're going to dive straight into it.
Thanks, Jason. Sorry, me again. Okay, so in terms of this session, we'll do a bit of scene setting, then we'll get into the battle, and then we'll sort of do a summary at the end. We're going to get into a bit of a definition of what omnichannel is from our own perspective. And then we're going to sort of, there's going to be some stats that sort of backs up the importance of omnichannel. And then we'll sort of get into, Jason's going to say why omnichannel is important. And then we'll get into the battle itself. So try not to get too excited for that one. Let's give you a bit of a definition then. So I don't know if you can see that on the screen. This is a definition of omnichannel, okay? And to be honest, I could have put 15, 20 different definitions of omnichannel. I think everyone will have their own concepts and understanding of omnichannel. I think what I want to do for this session is just, let's take a step back. And if we think about the concept of multi-channel, quite simply, that is multiple channels of communication, okay? Omnichannel is the next layer on top of that. Ultimately, this is where you're going to be smarter with those multiple layers of communication. This is where we might have some integration. We might have a few things going on for those multiple communication. And I think to get to that point, clearly you need to have an omnichannel strategy in place. You need to decide what channels you need. And then you need to decide, what software do I need to achieve this omnichannel? And that's where we're going to focus on what we've got in Dynamics 365 and in Salesforce. Okay, so no presentation is a presentation without some stats. So we've got someone here about omnichannel. I think the top one, 14.9 billion. That to me, it kind of shows the importance of omnichannel as a, what we can potentially do with it. Customers are expecting a lot more now, especially after the pandemic. Customers expecting to, maybe phone, go on a live chat and speak to a bot, but they're expecting it all to be connected together. So there's a lot of work to do there. I mean, if obviously we're going to sell a company omnichannel, a company is going to expect a bit of return there. So what we've seen as well is, a year-on-year increase for a company of 9.5% if they've invested in omnichannel versus the normal 3.4%. So, clearly it's not just spend money, we're not going to get money back. From what we've seen from the stats, there's a lot to do there. Jason's going to cover some of the why now, see how it all sort of makes sense.
Thank you. So a couple of things. Remember customer experience, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, today everyone's got Instagram, Twitter, voice, chat, and all of them exist independently. There's a difference, and that's where the benefits of omnichannel come to pass. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the consistency of those channels. Because using Twitter messaging, Instagram messaging, it's all different experience. Chat messaging, it's again a different experience. And using them in a singular context gives you that consistency from the agent's perspective. The second item is service continuity. So when a customer contacts you, they want to be able to pick up where they left off. And that's what this is going to give you with omnichannel, regardless of the solution you pick. The other thing with that sort of consistency is when a customer contacts you, they can see that, the agent can see the history of what you've spoken to them about, what they've spoken to you about. Look at that, you can scroll through, say, oh, you contacted us about this, let's pick up from there onwards. And eventually, all of that put together drives customer retention. So if the customer says, I was talking to Deliveroo the other day, and they said, oh, we noticed you got disconnected, let's give you that refund straight away. And I didn't have to ask them anything, it was all because it was all part of that singular experience. Interestingly, everyone thinks omnichannel is customer service, but in our research what we found is omnichannel exists in several other facets, in sales, in marketing. Think about how they engage with your content. In field service, think about whether you're on-site remote support as well as payments. Think about cash, cards, contactless. All of those concepts still tie to omnichannel, and the benefits still apply as well. So without further ado, let's head over to the battle and let the 5 rounds commence.
Thanks, Jason. It sounds like I'm going to introduce a boxing match between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, but none of that. Guys, we're not going to get into a demonstration. We've got 20 minutes for the overall session. The way we're going to do this is 5 rounds. So start with product features, then sort of get into sort of key features and capabilities between the two products. We're then going to look at sort of data, analytics, reporting, see what we've got there. And then we'll sort of look at, if we want to implement these two products, from an implementation deployment perspective, what does that look like? And then the final party piece, we're sort of going to compare the platforms as a whole. So without further ado, the first round is product overview. I've got a first comment on this one, Jason. Time in market. So Salesforce has been using omnichannel for 5-6 years now. Dynamics, probably about 2 or 3 years. So clearly Salesforce is ahead in that. I guess I think you had a good analogy on this one. What was the word you used?
Oh, there are 2 things. One is because Salesforce got there first, Dynamics has had the opportunity to do a technology leapfrog over Salesforce, but also get a research and development free ride because they've seen this is what Salesforce has done. Let's replicate that and do one better.
Jason, what do you think about the price?
Interestingly, Dynamics, we all know, has always been cheaper, but it's crazy with the difference. Now, it's hard to compare, but Salesforce comes in at about £300 per user per month, roughly speaking, whereas Dynamics comes in at about half that, about £150. And that's, roughly comparing features, apples for apples, as best as we could. But, investment, they're both the same. And there's more rounds to come, so you'll see how some of that, sort of gets in the favor of Dynamics as well. But for now, Salesforce is a little bit in the lead. So now the meat of it, looking at the key features and capabilities. So there are 5 points on here, but I'll break this down into 3 categories. One is the channels, and then those are how you communicate, how you manage those communications, and who you drive those to. Now, if we're looking at channels like for like, Dynamics is ahead because Salesforce only offers, the Twitter, Facebook, and live chat. But Dynamics goes to WeChat and a couple of other Chinese capabilities as well. Now, Where Salesforce goes ahead is social. It is way stronger than Dynamics in terms of social, but Dynamics does have Twitter messaging and Instagram messaging as well. But with Salesforce's social platform, you can add like 500 accounts to it. So it's stronger in that regard. But moving over to chatbots, both are fairly comparable. They've got capabilities with transcription, real-time presence, offline chat. But then Dynamics has real-time translation. So speaking with someone from another country, real-time sentiment as well. So if the customer's unhappy, you can tell that. And you can then escalate that to video and audio as well. So there is phone in both of them. But if you want to just have a quick chat with a quick call with the customer, you can do that and just escalate that chat into voice and video as well. Looking at work routing, largely even. They both do skills, availability-based routing, not much difference there. Moving on to agent management, this is where Dynamics with its capabilities around customer service and field service with skills, working hours, all of that is available in Omnichannel without any additional costs. But Salesforce doesn't have that capability. So again, Salesforce got there first, but Dynamics has brought its past history to kind of give it a leg up. I think I'm passing over to Rahul for round 3, unless you want to comment on anything from...
No, I guess round 2, Dynamics wins there, I'd say. Yeah. Okay. So round 3, we were debating whether reporting and analytics should come into this battle. Clearly, if you're comparing the two products, it's an important factor. So it's in there. One of the things to mention with this is, Dynamics has what we have in Power BI. Salesforce has Tableau. Both quite comparable products. We've heard that Tableau has better dashboards, probably one up for debate. In terms of governance, security, insights, self-service, analytics, integration, what we're seeing in Dynamics, Power BI is stronger there. I think one thing to mention as well, ease of integration from a Dynamics perspective. We can easily connect from Dataverse to Azure Synapse and just really get the data where it needs to be and do what we need to do there. So again, I don't want to spend too long on this one. Any thoughts on this one, Jason? No? Let's move on. Okay. I guess the one right at the top that we're seeing here, and we're talking about deployment and implementation. So from a Dynamics perspective, and I guess Salesforce, they're both quite easy to customize. Customization engine is good. When we get a customer requirement, there's a lot that we can do out of the box with out-of-the-box configuration. When we're talking about development, from a Dynamics perspective, we're used to using tools, HTML, JavaScript, .NET, technologies that people are used to. From a Salesforce perspective, they've got their own programming language called Apex, and that's where I'd say, it kind of drops down the scale because people need to be, skilled in Apex. Is quite particular. Projects can be quite costly. They can take longer. So I'd say Dynamics is a clear winner in terms of implementation. Any thoughts on admin, user management? Yeah, go.
I mean, if we're looking at user security management, with Salesforce, you've got the individual clouds, so management can be a bit segregated. But with Dynamics and Power Platform, it's all the same. So if you've done it once, there's no difference. There are additional features that you've got to configure, but it's fairly familiar, I would say. And yeah, also calling out maintenance as well. So with Salesforce, you've got to you've got to be an admin to be able to manage your channels. Whereas if you've ever used Omnichannel, it's all data driven, and that's the good thing about the solution is you want to add another channel in the future. You can do that in practice and then create the same data configurer, okay? And we know how wide the platform and the ecosystem is. But when we're let's look at like other apps and services to start with. And there are two facets to this. One is, the other apps within the Dynamics stack, but also what you see on App Exchange or App Source. They're both relatively comparable, but we're a Dynamics partner here. So, we've done a lot of the Dynamics apps, obviously. But when you look at low codability, integration, authentication, and data, that's where the Microsoft stack kind of just wins out straight away. I'll let Rahul comment if you want on any of this. And then
yeah. So, I want to talk about integration. So from a Salesforce perspective, they've got something called App Exchange, which is comparable to App Source. There's lots of apps on App Exchange. When you need to fill a gap in the product, you'll go onto App Exchange and buy something and it does that. From a Dynamics perspective, it's a Microsoft product. Clearly, there's good integration with all the Microsoft apps. If you're a customer who, you're already embedded with Microsoft using Windows and all the things that you used to, it kind of makes sense to kind of pick Microsoft. So I guess integration-wise, it's much easier with Microsoft. And that's not me being biased, that's just thinking logically. But probably is a bit of bias in there. I'm just checking as well, we've got more people. Any more Salesforce people with us? No? No one yet? Okay. Anything else on this one?
I want to touch over authentication and data as well. So, when we look at Auth, okay, with Microsoft, you've got your AD, Azure AD. You go over to Salesforce, they say, oh, you can use Microsoft's Azure AD if you want to authenticate. Because, that's how broad the Microsoft ecosystem is, that all of this is ready and available for you. Data as well, you've got the choice of where you store your data, especially if you're a local or central government organization, you want to make sure it's resident in the UK. You've got a lot more choice with that versus another platform as well. And, we've seen enough of sessions about the Power Platform, and that low codability, it is the leader in the space. And, Gartner research just put it right at the top as well. Couple of things that we probably didn't pick up, user experience, if you've seen the omni-channel experience, it is fabulous. It's really, really good. And the thing is, with solutions like omni-channel between companies, they always copy each other. But Microsoft is at the point where it's really slick, it's really quick to use, it's performant, and they're constantly improving and bringing stuff from things like Customer Service Workspace as well. So I think we're going to round off into the results, and I'll hand over to Rahul again.
One more thing to mention. We got a bit more time. I guess on this, throughout all of the rounds, there could have been so many things that we can compare. One thing that's not really one to compare now, but maybe we'll do another session like this, is the roadmap. Since the pandemic, this is a hot topic. Omni-channel is important, and there's lots of things coming out in both products, and hopefully it will fill out some of those gaps that we're seeing. Yeah, one more thing from Jason.
all the memories are coming back in now. So the other thing worth... Oh, man, I've lost my train of thought now. He'll come back to me.
He'll come back, right. Let's get to results then. So results are in. You've seen the 5 rounds. Where do you think the winner is, guys? Hands up for Dynamics. So, seems to be mostly Dynamics. Salesforce, I guess. Any hands? We got one over there. Come over, come. No. Okay, so clearly Dynamics is winning for what we're seeing. We've got a round of applause for Dynamics there. What we're thinking is Salesforce isn't far behind. Salesforce is actually stronger on a lot of the points. But for what we're seeing in terms of an implementation for Omnichannel, Dynamics, it kind of makes sense. Jason, any deeper thoughts on that one?
So as Rahul said, Salesforce, you've seen the Gartner reports, it's up there, but it is up there for individual apps. But when you consider the platform and ecosystem and the breadth and the cross-platform integration as well, or cross-app integration, should I say, that's where the benefits come to pass. And that's really where some of this makes it easier to work with Omnichannel as well. The point that I forgot that I've remembered, what we've covered through these comparisons is concepts, and the concepts transcend individual applications. So if you're ever looking at Omnichannel, think about those channels, how you want to manage it, how those agents are going to work, how you're going to route those calls and communications as well. All of those things apply regardless of the scenario, and that's really what you've got to be thinking in this context. Anything else?
Yeah. So Microsoft takes the 2021 crown for Omnichannel, guys. Round of applause for Microsoft. And a final thank you. We need to thank the sponsors. We need to mention that we've got the charity quiz later on at 7 o'clock. And then the sponsored drinks at 5:30 in the expo hall, I guess, in here and everywhere. Any other call-outs?
Oh, no, but if anyone's coming to the field service session, I'm going to bolt it.
You have to run to the other side. So thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you.